Hey ESO friends, and welcome back. This is a PvE DPS video for Werewolf build, and I wanted to put it together in response to some requests I've had from people who want to find out what sets they can start to farm when they're new to the game and they don't really have access to the DLC. So this is really kind of focused on base game sets, and I wanted to highlight what I would recommend you farm to start with when looking at getting involved in sort of the more kind of end game content. So let's have a look at the recommended sets. First up we got Hunding's Rage, which is pretty much a staple in the game. It's a 6-trait set, most people can craft it, and I'd advise just getting in touch with somebody in your guild who would be willing to put that together for you, and you want that in medium armor Divines. So the next set is Deadly Strike, and this can be found at the vendor in Bruma. However, you can also purchase it from guild stores, and I'd recommend, if you're not into PvP, having a look in there first. It's pretty widely available. And lastly, the last set is Stormfist. It's a very high-hitting monster set. It can be found in the dungeon Tempest Island on the veteran mode, and it drops from the final boss. The shoulder piece can be found in the Undaunted lockboxes, so if you do your Undaunted dailies for the keys, you can pick it up there. Now let's start doing a bit of a dive into the character setup, and first of all we'll have a look at the character sheet. We'll start by having a look at that outside of werewolf form, and then see the effect that has on your stats inside of werewolf form. It's also worth noting here that the base build is a Dunmer Stamsork, and that's really a strong option to go for werewolf PvP at the moment. So the food I use is Lovefoot Soup, that's not just for passing, and the Mundus is the Thief currently. Let's do a little bit more of a deeper dive on the individual slotted assets. So we've got Nirn Honed on the front bar with the dagger there. Very important to have that on the front bar, the Nirn Honed. And I've gone for Sharpened on the back bar just to make up that physical penetration, which I felt I was losing from Togvins from dropping that set. We've got Deadly Bow, so that's a very strong option to have in place of the Maelstrom bow. You've got the head there, the headpiece. This is all in Divines, and you could go for maybe 1 or 2 pieces light, so you could potentially pick up the monster set in light, and then have the rest medium. I tend to struggle with sustain if I go for 2 light, so maybe just 1 piece of light. And then you've got the rings there in Bloodthirsty, and you got weapons damage glyphs on all of them. Cool, let's nip out of that section and have a quick look at the skills. So as I mentioned, it's a Stamsork base build, so I focus on dual wield, and I have a whole bunch of attacks here for when I'm outside of werewolf form, trying to do as much DPS as possible. But also some of these slotted abilities are super useful for getting a high DPS count on a trial dummy when you start, just before you go into werewolf form. And we'll talk a little bit about that rotation just in a little bit. Cool, okay, let's have a quick look at the champion points. So nothing's changed here. Wrathful Strikes, very strong backstabber. I'm going for Deadly Aim and for Master Arms. I would keep those going. They're very strong at the moment in terms of selections. Okay, we've got Boundless Vitality, Fortified, Rejuvenation, and the last one is possibly the most interesting. It's Sustained by Suffering, and that effectively helps you with your sustain, because werewolf, when you're trying to do the very high end damage, does suffer with sustain a bit, and basically that means that if you have a negative effect on you, then your stamina regen is increased. And to trigger this effect during a DPS pass, you're going to want to make some of the stamina potions with the reduced resistances. Now you can actually use this potion outside of DPS passes, because in werewolf form you already get a big buff to resistances. However, if you did feel like that you didn't want to suffer from that lack of resistance outside of werewolf form, then you could just add a little bit more stamina recovery to one of your jewelry pieces, and you could use this potion, which is the tri-stat health potion. You'll lose a little bit of DPS, but nothing major whatsoever. So next we should have a little look at the rotation just before turning into werewolf form during a pass. So these are the skills I activate in order to essentially queue up damage before I actually pop werewolf form and then start doing DPS. So all of these various skills are, apart from Dark Deal, which is really there to regain some stamina just before you go in, are really there to start doing DPS just as you start attacking in werewolf form, and that basically it gives you a nice boost to the damage as you start doing a DPS pass. And next let's have a look at the rotation inside werewolf form, and this will be the rotation that you ideally keep up throughout the pass. Now it's worth noting as well that ideally you should be weaving a light attack in between all of these various different skills. It can be quite difficult to keep up the main stack in werewolf form by doing this, so I would at least advise you to be looping light attacks between every Howl of Agony, and by doing so that's how you tend to hit the very high levels of DPS. In general, that's just the case for every DPS build out there, and so a bit of practicing of that to start with is always recommended. Thanks very much for joining me, and let's have a quick look at the DPS pass, and I'll catch you at the end of it. Thank you. So coming away there with 76k, I believe this build can actually hit around 80k, but 76k not at all a bad spot to be aiming for there. Thanks for joining me, and I'll be bringing out videos semi-regularly, but I appreciate everybody that's subscribed, and I appreciate you for watching. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.